channel K3 here. Um, so, as you know, I am an enthusiast of transformative politics, and I think that politics is the solution to the problems of third world countries. And I'll be using again Kenya as an example of how good policies fail if they are not implemented. Now, since we gained independence some 50 something years ago, um, our country seems to be regressing instead of progressing, especially in political matters. When we think we have grown politically, we find us going back to those ways that were before, like tribal politics, people just leaders. The people we have actually politicians are not leaders because leaders would implement the policies that we give. Kenya is a very good country on making policies, but implementing them is another thing. So, today, I want to give a very interesting story about some countries that we were at par during from since we gained independence, but now they're economic giant, while us we're still in the third world when we should be up there with these countries. Now, if you look around, in Africa right now, a country like Rwanda has set a very good example on how the president of that country is able to implement policies. Now, he may have his shortcomings, but we can see that that country is developing very fast. And looking at Rwanda, I'm reminded of the country Singapore. So, for those of you who don't know, Kenya and Singapore have a lot of things in common. For example, we both gained independence in 1963 from the British colonizers. Another thing is that both our countries have been ruled by a founding father and a son of the founding father. Now, today I want us to look at how Singapore or what how Singapore was able to surpass or go beyond their means and become economic giants. Now, here's some interesting facts about these two countries. So, Singapore and Kenya, they both gained independence in 1963 from the British colonizers. Then, when they gained independence, the economy by then, the GDP of the economy, that is the gross domestic product of the economy for Kenya, was $926 million, and that of Singapore was $917 million. So that tells you that we were at the same level. We were not that much off. We could have easily caught up to them. But then, in 15 years' time, between 1963 and 1978. In 1978, the founding father of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, died. And by this time, the economy of Kenya had grown to 5.3 billion, right? Some progress. Singapore, on the other hand, in the same 15 years under the president Lee Kuan Yew, their economy had grown to $8 billion. Mhm. $8 billion. And so when it got to 1970, from there, we never saw Singapore again. In 1990, Kenya's economy was had grown to, I think, $8 billion, but Singapore then it was $38.9 billion. Their GDP was $38.9 million, and mind you, the population of Singapore right now is 5 million, while that of Kenya is 40 million. But right now, Kenya, like in 2013, when the second Kenyatta, or the son of the founding father, took power, the Kenyan economy was at 55 billion, but Singapore was, I think, 327 billion. So how can we what happened what happened to these two economies? Well, if you research on Singapore and Kenya, you'll find that in Singapore, the corruption rates are so low. And the government likes to, when it comes up with policies, it ensures that those policies are not just on papers. It ensures that it actually implements these policies so that they can assist their citizens. They just don't keep them on paper. Come to Kenya on the other hand. How many policies have been set up and they have flopped? You see a project starting, all of a sudden we hear the money is not there, but the project it seems to be the project has flopped, but there is no money to say that yeah this project flopped, but here's the money that we didn't use and this and this. Now what the president of Singapore did back then was that instead of just focusing on the wealth of resources and agriculture, he also looked at education and smart trade. Before implementing all those policies or those advices given by the World Bank, that president looked at the repercussions of those things. What if we exploit the minerals and we no longer have any more minerals? Then what? Then what is going to happen? Yeah? What if we keep planting whatever we are planting and then, like now, global warming and all that, we cannot depend on solely agriculture and the seasons. So, what President Lee Kuan Yew did is he thought smart. Yeah, he looked at the things. His vision was in line with things, the adaptation of future changes. But our founding father, and all those who succeeded him, except President Kibaki, President Kibaki, if you look at during his time, his tenure, the economy was doing pretty well. Yeah, Kenya was getting somewhere. That is because to him, he was actually looking at what Singapore did, and that is what he was aiming at. He was aiming at putting our country up there, putting our country back to where it should have been, because we would have been at the same level with Singapore. Imagine a population of 5 million people are able to support an economy of 320 something billion, while a population of 40 million is just managing 55 billion economy. So imagine if we were, so Singapore is actually beating us almost 7 times. It's beating us because in the next few years, Singapore is going to be so far that Kenya is not even going to see it. Now, let me tell you a fun fact about something that happened in Singapore in 2017. So, the government had such good returns that they decided everybody who is 21 years and above is going to receive a $300 bonus. Anyone that was 21 years and above was going to receive a $300 Singaporean dollars in their account. That's an equivalent of 24,000 shillings in Kenya. Imagine if our government can do that. I mean, do you think our government can do that? Give us bonuses when they are even stealing from people who are, they are even stealing from NHIF, sick people, cancer. Every day is a scandal. That tells you that our country has the potential. It has the ability, not just the potential, it has the ability to actually provide better things for the citizens. But we don't have leaders. What we have are politicians. And what do politicians do? To them, they only want to amass wealth. They're not thinking of the citizens. They're not thinking of taking this country forward. All they're thinking about is going with the ball to the international community and beg. When right here, we have enough resources that can actually help us to get to countries like Singapore, countries like South Korea. South Korea wasn't anything. They didn't have that much, but they have visionary leaders, not politicians. They had visionary leaders who are looking at 20 years from now, 50 years from now, where do we want our country to be? Where do we want our citizens to be? And mind you, I'm not saying they do not have their own issues, but look at their economy. I mean, why do you think majority of us or majority of young people want to go to those countries, want to go to the developed countries? There are more opportunities there. But If our leaders could be leaders and not, if the politicians we have could be leaders and not not politicians. Imagine if the parliaments that we've had since 1963, if they were actually serious in implementing policies that were there since then. Imagine how far this country would be. But you find every single time they are promising the same thing every single time, every election. It's about roads, it's about water, it's about better education, it's about um, giving farmers the best, you know. And you wonder, all these years, why hasn't this been implemented? Why now? Even Nairobi city itself, right now we're finding that it is when roads are being upgraded. While in other countries you find that, yes, we're not saying all countries are 100% good, but our country is getting worse. It is regressing instead of progressing, which I think it's something that it's going to cost us. Right now, the cost of the living has really shot up. And when I see countries like Singapore taking care of their citizens like that, giving people of ages 21 and above 24,000 shillings, $300, just because the country did well and they wanted bonuses. Right now, we are at around 47 million. Singapore are at around 5 point something million. Yet their GDP is $340 billion. US dollars. Imagine that. So we really need to talk. We really need to call out our leaders. We really need to find or to choose leaders that we actually represent the concern of the citizens and not themselves. That's why you find even the talented people in this country are not getting what they deserve for their work. Somebody somewhere is just seated waiting for you to create your music video and all that. Yeah, and that money that you're supposed to have, that money that that talented person is supposed to have, feed their kids and family. Another person is using it to feed their kids and family. And then they'll be telling us we have the same 24 hours. Please. So let's talk about this. Let's call them out. So I hope that you'll continue to subscribe, like, and share for more of this content. Remember, transformative politics is the key solution to the problems of third world countries.